Welcome back to Bombastic Nation and Ting and Ting and Ting. Back with another vibe for all you know what I mean? And as you all could tell, man, I have this love for other cultures and other histories from other countries and things like that. So I'm gonna switch it up just a little bit, and we're gonna do the history of Japan, people. The history of Japan. Uh, Actually, in the university where I went, yeah, I actually had some friends uh, from Japan. You know what I mean? One of the my best friends that I had from Japan, his name was Yuta Usada. Man, I hope the brethren watching this. Big up to Yuta Usada. You know what I mean? And thing, and that's another one of the. Gosh, I want to do some traveling so bad. I hope all this craziness ends so I can start doing some traveling. But that's one of my bucket lists right there. You know what I mean? So I ain't gonna babble too much of thing. Let's just get into to this one here. Is the history of Japan. Let's YouTube and Sim Simmer.
The very first human habitation in the Japanese archipelago has been traced to prehistoric times around 30,000 BC. The Homan period, named after its court-marked pottery, was followed by Yanoe in the first millennium BC when new technologies were introduced from continental Asia. During this period, the first known written reference to Japan was recorded in the Chinese Book of Han in the 1st century AD. Between the 4th and the 9th century, Japan's many kingdoms and tribes gradually came to be unified under a centralized government normally controlled by the emperor. The imperial dynasty continues to reign over Japan. In 794, a new imperial capital was established at Heian-kuo, modern Kyoto, making the beginning of the Heian period, which lasted until 1185. The Heian period is considered a golden age of classical Japanese culture. Japanese religious life from its time and onwards was a mix of native Shinto and practices of Buddhism. Over the power of centuries, the power of the emperor and the imperial court gradually declined, passing first to great clans of civilian aristocrats, most notably the Fujiwara, and then to military clans and their armies of samurai. The Minamoto clan under Minamoto Yoritomo emerged victorious from the Gnippi War of 1180-1185, defeating their rival military clan, the Taira. After seizing power, Yoritomo set up his clan of Kamakura and took the title of shogun. In 1274 and 1281, the Kamakura shogunate withstood two Mongol invasions, but in 1333 it was topped by a rival claimant to shogunate, ushering the Muromachi period. During the Muromachi period, regional warlords called daimyos grew in power and the experience of the shogun. Over the course of the late 16th century, Japan was reunited under the leadership of the prominent daimyo Oda Nobunaga and his successor Toyotomi Hideyoshi. After Hideyoshi's death, in 1598, Tokugawa Ieyasu came to power and was appointed shogun by the emperor. The Tokugawa shogunate, which governed from Edo, modern Tokyo, presided over a prosperous and peaceful era known as Edo period, lasted between 1600.
So during all the regime changes, there's always been an emperor, from what I'm understanding here. That's kind of unique.
To 1868. The Tokugawa
From what I
shogunate
know.
imposed a strict class system on Japanese
And I have a
society
lot to
and cut
learn.
off almost all contact with the outside world. Portugal and Japan started their first affiliation in 1543, making the Portuguese first Europeans to reach Japan by landing in the southern archipelago of Japan.
Wow.
They had a significant impact on Japan, even in the initial limited interaction.
The Portuguese were pretty prominent in those times, weren't
The
they?
emperor and the imperial court
You know,
gradually
I
declined.
screwed up
In
here.
1185,
Let me try to get back to where we were.
1181, the Kamakura shogunate period regional warlords called
Let's just
daimyos
go from
were
here.
empowering the
But
experience of the
it seems like the Portuguese comes up a lot. They come up in Africa, they come up in the Caribbean. You know, they were a major superpower back in the day.
shogun. Over the course of the late 16th century, Japan was reunited under the leadership of the prominent daimyo Oda Nobunaga and his successor Toyotomi Hideyoshi. After Hideyoshi's death, In 1598, Tokugawa Ieyasu came to power and was appointed shogun by the emperor. The Tokugawa shogunate, which governed from Edo, modern Tokyo, presided over a prosperous and peaceful era known as Edo period, lasted between 1600 to 1868. The Tokugawa shogunate imposed a strict class system on Japanese society and cut off almost all contact with the outside world.
Oh, wow.
Portugal and Japan started their first affiliation in 1543, making the Portuguese first Europeans to reach Japan by landing in the southern archipelago of Japan. They had a significant impact on Japan even in the initial limited interaction, introducing firearms to Japanese warfare. The Netherlands was the first to establish trade relations in Japan. Japanese and Dutch relations are dating back to 1609.
The Dutch too. They were all involved.
Expedition in 1853 through 1854 more completely ended Japan's seclusion. This contributed to the fall of the shogunate and the return to power to the imperior during the Boshin War in 1868. The new national leadership of the following Meiji period transformed the isolated feudal island country into an empire that closely followed Western models and became a great power. Although democracy developed and modern civilian culture prospered during the Taisho period between 1912 and 1926, Japan's powerful military had great autonomy and overruled Japan's civilian leaders in 1920s and 1930s. The military invaded Manchuria in 1931, and from 1937 the conflict escalated into prolonged war with China. Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941 led to war with the United States and its allies. Japan's forces soon became overextended, but the military held out in spite of Allied air attacks that inflicted severe damage on the population centers. Emperor Hirohito announced Japan's unconditional surrender on August 15, 1945, following the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and the Soviet invasion of Manchuria. The Allies occupied Japan until 1952, during which a new constitution was enacted in 1947 that transformed Japan into constitutional monarchy. After 1955, Japan enjoyed a very high economic growth and became a world economic powerhouse. Since the 1990s, the lost decade has been a major issue, such as the 1995 Great Kobe-Osaka earthquake and Tokyo subway sarin attack. In 2004, Japan sent military force as part of the international coalition forces during the Iraq War. On Friday, March 11, 2011, at 2:46 p.m., Japan suffered from a powerful magnitude 9 earthquake and a tsunami, one of the most powerful earthquakes recorded. The earthquake killed almost 20,000 people.
Wow.
Places in 3 regions, Tohoku, Chubu, and Kanto in the northeast of Honshu, including the Tokyo area, had massive economic ramifications and caused the serious Fukushima nuclear power disaster.
Social stratification of Japan.
Expanding trade and agriculture increased the wealth of the society, which was increasingly monopolized by social elites. By 600 AD, a class structure had developed which included court aristocrats, the families of local magnates, commoneers, and slaves. Over 90% were commoneers, who included farmers, merchants, and artisans. During the late Heian period, the governing elite consisted of 3 classes.
Isn't it funny how they set up this stuff and they label everybody? You're a commoner, you're an elite, and they just like, and then the people, like for instance, quite possibly the commoners here, they live a certain lifestyle, like they adequately make it, and they become satisfied to a certain degree.
The traditional aristocracy shared power with Buddhist monks and samurai, though the latter became
Buddhist monks
in the Kamakura and Muromachi periods. These periods witnessed the rise of the merchant class, which diversified into a greater variety of specialized occupations. Although the social classes were legally abolished at the start of the Meiji period, income inequality greatly increased. New economic class divisions were formed between capitalist business owners, who formed the new middle class, small shopkeepers of the old middle class, the working class in factories, rural landlords, and tenant farmers. The great disparities of income between the classes dissipated during the World War II, eventually declining to levels that were among the lowest in the industrialized world. Some post-war surveys indicated that up to 90% of Japanese self-identified as being middle class. Populations of workers in professions considered unclean, such as leather workers and those who handled the dead, developed in the 15th and the 16th centuries into hereditary outcast communities. These people, later called burakumin, fell outside the Edo period class structure and suffered discrimination that lasted after the class system was abolished. Though the aftermath has improved the social conditions of those from the burakumin backgrounds, discrimination in employment and education lingered into the 21st century. The Japanese archipelago is a group of 6,852 islands that form the country of Japan. It extends over 3,000 kilometers from the Sea of Okhotsk in the north and the East China Sea and the Philippine Sea in the south along the east coast of the Asian continent. The size of Japan is 378,000 kilometers. It makes it 1.56 times bigger than the United Kingdom.
Wow.
Japan is the largest island country in East Asia and the fourth largest island country in the world. Japan has the sixth longest coastline and the eighth largest exclusive economic zone. The islands of Japan were created by tectonic plate movements over several hundreds of millions of years. Japan is located in the northeastern ring of fire on multiple tectonic plates. About 73% of Japan is mountainous, with a mountain range running through each of the main islands. Japan's highest mountain is Mount Fuji, with an elevation of 3,776 meters. There's a great variety of geographical features and weather patterns.
That's
with
pretty.
a wet season which takes place in early summer for most areas. The volcanic soil that washes along the 13% of the area that makes up the coastal plains provides a fertile land. The mainly temperate climate allows long growing seasons with a diversity of flora and fauna. This provides rich resources to support high population. The climate of the Japanese archipelago varies from humid continental in north Hokkaido to humid subtropical and tropical rainforest in south Okinawa. The remote location makes Japan relatively secure against foreign invasions. The Japanese archipelago is surrounded by vast seas and it has rugged mountainous terrains with steep rivers.
That's
Kyushu
beautiful.
is closest to the southernmost point of the Korean peninsula with a distance of 190 kilometers. Throughout the history, Japan was never fully invaded or conquered by foreigners. The Mongols tried to invade Japan twice and were repelled in 1274 and 1281. This concludes our today's brief documentary.
Wow, that was cool right there. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm gonna do deep dives into like foods and stuff from all the places that I react to. Hey, if you guys I did stuff on Germany and Russia and Ireland. If there's things you want me to react to about the types of food and stuff in there, hit me up in the comment section and thing, let me give me some suggestions and things, so I could vibe up with some of that vibe there for all you and thing, but man, hope you guys enjoying with me. Hope you have your popcorn or whatever kind of snack you all eat and whatever culture you're in and thing, and you have a nice cold drink, whatever drink, your heart's desire and you're enjoying this and thing, and keep enjoying it. Click there, it's somewhere down there, just click there and keep watching, man, because I have some cool stuff in there. Go to the education playlist and just look through it and see what the vibe is. Like I said, if you don't know where you're coming from as a human race, we don't know where we're going to be ending up, because we got to learn from our mistakes and correct it as we go along, you know what I mean, and thing. In the meantime, take care of each other, keep watching,